If it doesn't sell, it isn't creative.
From privacy breaches to mental health risks, the dark side of social media is becoming harder to ignore.
Media humans. Media humans.
Media humans.
How do I raise funds without raising my blood pressure?
Welcome to Media Humans. It's my opportunity to get together with my favorite people in the entire world, and it's the random human beings that decide to get into this media game for a second. And so I have Julianne here, and we actually met through the event space because just to kind of set the table, because it was... Everybody fortunately understands how COVID was a weird thing. Mm-hmm. I had just started a business leading up to COVID. Yeah. I don't recommend that.
No one does.
So about, into COVID, it was charitable live streams and nonprofit fundraisers that kept the doors open for us and kept everybody fed on our team. Wow, the advertising world kind of came to a complete stall for the first couple months there. And then we had a really fun opportunity to continue that work with live streams and then ask videos with all of these nonprofits. And that's where I got to meet you, because you are event planner extraordinaire. But we also found out that event planners during the pandemic kind of became TV producers a little bit.
We did. And with having no experience in that whatsoever at all.
I think the first job we worked on together, you had people in hazmat suits and N95, is it N95 masks?
N95 masks and goggles. We did a traditional dessert dash during COVID. So the live stream was taking place from the school library. And then we had cohorts of people in classrooms up to whatever a restaurant would allow at that point. And we had people dress up in their hazmat suits from each of the classrooms, hazmat suit, N95, goggles. And then they had to run in order down to the center of lobby to grab their dessert to take it back to the room.
So we had cameras following the action with walkie-talkies. And it was, I think some of those broadcasts were more intensive than some sports broadcasts that my crew has done in other parts of their career. Mm-hmm. But that's what made it fun. And I think what made it a little terrifying, and why I'm happy to be back in like a studio setting, is because we would essentially have to just build the studio the day of. Get a live stream out the door too. And so you'd have the IT guy going like, I think it's going to work. And then, 9 times out of 10, the actual hardwired Ethernet wouldn't work. So you'd have some intern, plugged to their phone in. So we're using their phone data to get a live stream out.
Which gratefully you worried mostly about. And I just had to worry about what someone might say on the live stream to go out to our entire audience.
Oh, none of that was easy.
No,
none of that was easy. So, okay, do you miss COVID in a weird way?
I'm gonna say we were super creative during COVID. And I think we've gotten to this place where events are just so different now that the same thing we used to do in 2019 and before just doesn't work anymore. And so we've spent the last few years not just crafting post live stream and post production, but creating events that people want to actually attend. And now we're focused on generationally, what do people like to do? What do our millennial and Gen Z attendees want? What do our boomers and our Gen Xers still want? And how do we build an event that provides a great space for all of these donors?
Because I guess for fundraising specifically, a lot of the boomers now are retired, fixed income. So it's not like they've got the extra couple thousand to drop on a cool auction. But then it brings up the point of, what do the millennials actually like to do? Do they actually want to do the same thing that the boomers did? So what are you seeing post-pandemic? What's working?
Well, what's working now is really a shorter, tighter event program, which if you talk to any fundraiser or eventer, we're all in. The 4-hour silent auction, live auction, full-on dinner, full after party, it's nearing kind of the end of its run, or we create it as more of a choose your own adventure. But our millennials and Gen Zs they like to come in, do a bit of good. They want to volunteer for your org. They want to donate, and they want to provide expertise. They want to really make it a meaningful contribution. And so just sort of setting up a party for them isn't what they're looking for. So we create amazing activations that tie people to cause.
And you've done some cool activations, not just during the pandemic, but post-pandemic. Can you walk me through a couple of the activations that you've been most proud of?
Yeah, I think probably there's one I just did last year that was really, really interesting. And I don't know, I'm all about cause, right? I'm all about the mission and the heart of the event. And one we did with a behavioral health center, we had their providers come in and we provided some signage. And we effectively had these little rotations with a provider where people could learn about how and when to use Narcan in a situation, the do's and don'ts of de-escalation if someone's in a mental health crisis, and really kind of giving people some skill building, right? Instead of just, here's a silent auction item that you can write your name down on. Really changing from transactional to transformational.
Well, and it's engaging too. So I'm not looking at the program going, okay, check. Mm-hmm. I love that because talk about what a great way to show the value of an organization and just put them and give them actual practical skills.
Exactly.
Because that's when they're going to be thinking like, good God, I've run into this so many times or whatever that is. And now I know what to actually do. And gosh, this is so important. Yes. And also I feel like millennials don't want to bring as much junk home too.
They don't. There's really, again, it's the whole thing about stuff. People cleaned out a lot during COVID too. That was their thing. But if they weren't making sourdough, they were cleaning out and organizing and deciding they Marie Kondoed everything. Do I love this? Does it belong in my space? So they really don't look for that.
Well, I think a lot of millennial couples now, at least the older millennials, we've had to at least clean out like one parent's house. Yes. Where you go like, oh God, I don't want to do this to my kids. So I'm just not going to collect crap now. Not saying that the stuff is crap, but we've all been to those silent auctions before.
We definitely had someone donate a pie plate one year and to an auction. I was like, what am I supposed to do with a pie plate? How does this help anyone? So I'm really happy to not have those kinds of things. Oh, I also had someone who donated a bag of dolls once. And not a cool bag of dolls, not a whole
bag of dolls?
Uh-huh. Yep.
What kind of dolls?
Creepy old dolls.
Oh, fun. Mm-hmm. Was it a haunted house?
No, it's just a regular auction. So we wrote them a wonderful gift receipt and then we delivered those to Goodwill.
Good for you. I was gonna ask. But that's one of the issues, you being in events, is it is like chore after chore after chore after chore after chore. Right. Something, and we should probably mention, if somebody did want to work with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Oh, of course. You can reach me at killbreathevents.com.
Great.
And I can also maybe leave my number and you can throw it in the
comments, chats,
exactly,
whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Please do. We are loving right now. We love awesome gather and give style events where we just bring people in and we talk about mission. We have family style appetizers on the tables where people can really gather, talk about mission. And then we are just saying, gather and give. We want you to come in here. We're going to share our story, and then we're going to ask you for a donation. It's very clear. And oftentimes I think a lot of event planners and a lot of nonprofits don't really think about being clear and educating your donor base and the people that you're asking to attend. So when you change the name or you adjust the way your program looks, it's giving people those context clues to really know what they're supposed to do.
And one thing I've always admired about Kill Breath events is that, how many events are y'all doing each year?
Oh, gosh. Kill Breath, overall, we'll do probably 75 or 80 events this year.
Which is insane. So multiple events per week.
Yes.
So and then also, Stephen has been doing it for years. Everybody on your team has been doing it for years. So you get all of this acquired knowledge, not a lot of times if it's just a committee doing an event, especially for a nonprofit fundraiser, it's people who are lawyers, teachers, whatever. And then they come together and they go, I think this is, I really like this event, but this is where you get people who have done it. They've learned everything the hard way. And,
yes, we have.
and they can, and what I like about Kill Breath events is they will look you in the eye and be like, not a great idea. Right. We're not going to do that.
Exactly.
Which I think some people might be like,
it may benefit us sometimes. It may not. We don't know.
I think ultimately when they see how much money they actually raise opposed to making it up and going with it, it makes a big difference. So,
and it really does. Our clients on average, when they allow us in and get a hold of their program, and one of the things I should mention is we look at all of their past event data. Mm-hmm. Who's coming to your event? What are they doing? What are their behaviors? And what levers can we pull, turn, what knobs can we use to help them raise more money? And when they're working with our event planning teams, on average, they're raising about 40 to 60% more year over year. And
I will say that's just to kind of plug you guys a little bit more. Stephen comes from a background of television. So there's never a lot of times I'll be like, okay, I think that's why people will hire him in the first place. It's because it's like, well, he's on television all the time. So I know I can trust him to put a microphone and to be engaging on a microphone. And I think in any market, there's a handful of media professionals who kind of fall in that space. The difference is that Kilbreth Events doesn't show up the morning of and go, where do I plug in? Exactly. And would give me the show flow. They're doing planning meeting after planning meeting after planning meeting. They are the quarterback of the event. Yes. So there's no surprises at all. And not a dig on anybody else, but I've been on boards where I've hired talent in other markets, and they show up and what's the plan? Cool. That sounds great. And I think the benefit is that you guys have done so many events that it's like, you tell me what to do here. And that to me is, and I don't think it gets brought up enough. I think that's why they bring you back year over year after year.
We're pretty low key about it. Maybe we shouldn't be, maybe we should tell people more often, but I'm a fundraiser by background and eventer second. And most fundraisers not super crazy about events because they take up so much time and space and energy.
Yep.
And what we're trying to do is really provide that expertise and consultation and saying, hey, we know that you hate doing your event. Let us take that pressure off of you. Let us put the whole thing together. And we care about the funds you're going to raise and why you're raising them. We'll provide you with this white glove service so that you feel like you have a real consultative and collaborative approach to the event. We'll work with your board, your development director, or your fundraising chair, whatever that looks like for you. And we just come in and craft a plan that makes sense for everyone. And you're part of the process the whole way through if you want to be.
Well, and what I like, again, I'm just looking at it from like a board member's standpoint. Mm-hmm. Board members can either be completely hands off or can be kind of like a venomous snake pit of opinions. Mm-hmm. And
yes.
So if you're the what? I don't know if you've ever heard this.
Yeah. I have no idea.
If you've ever been the event chair, hiring somebody like Kilbreth Events is the equivalent of hiring the advertising agency that won't get you fired.
Yes.
So when at the recap, whenever there's why did we decide to do this and not this? And why did we decide to, well, that's because of what Kilbreth Events told us to do, and it worked. And then you can just move on with your day. You don't have to tap dance why you made the decision to put the buffet table in whatever corner.
Exactly.
so
all those decisions.
To me, that's probably one of the biggest benefits is like
exactly, right?
That feeling right there.
Super, super helpful.
So one thing I have missed post-pandemic is that we still do get to work with you.
I know.
On limited capacity, because we'll still do ask videos and things like that for some of these nonprofits that we've gotten to know. In my mind now, fundraising, like you were mentioning, is no longer just this singular event or 2 events a year where we hope we make all of our money. It's an ongoing branding initiative and everything like that. So what I am trying to do is figure out a way that we can continue to work with more nonprofits because the fundraising stuff, it makes it worthwhile. When we work with attorneys and car dealerships and
all great stuff.
We love you, don't go
all
anywhere.
Great stuff. Exactly.
Yes,
all great stuff. Like, please do not let go of that revenue stream.
But you don't get the same there was during the pandemic, there were times where we'd count it up, be like, God, we helped raise like $4 million this year, and that to me matters a lot. Mm-hmm. The ask videos are a lot of fun. I know Brandon's kind of got it down to a science on it.
Sure, he does. He's amazing.
But but we also had to be real with people where it's like, God, people just aren't tuning into live streams anymore.
Right.
And the grief to dollars ratio just wasn't there, I feel like, for us and for a lot of the nonprofits. It's like, hey, why don't you save this money? So where do you see that going at all? Are people still doing live streams?
People are still doing live streams. And what I think is interesting is I think that if we're looking at a big idea, we should look at the opportunity that there is to live stream everything. I think we look at festivals and fairs and all kinds of things and we consider it programming instead of necessarily part of the event or a live stream to raise money, right? And I think that the way that this can work is, I think it's about finding a budget-friendly way to do it, right? Because from a nonprofit perspective, if we're going to go spend X number of dollars, we need a return on that. Mm-hmm. And we might not get that with a live stream coming in. But I think that there are other opportunities to utilize that footage and that experience over the course of the year. And one of the things that I'm working to build in this year with all of our events is changing them from being transactional to transformational. So how are you using your content from your event? How are you promoting that event the following year? How are you going back to it and sharing with your donors what a great time they had? And so whether that's viewing it online or, being a part of it in person, then reading back about it, I think there's value in that.
I think there's big value in it. And you kind of hit it on the head of like, is there a return on that investment? Mm-hmm. So like, it's I'm on the board for the Cougar Collective, which is like the NIL for WSU, go Cougs. Yep. Now it's a hard sell to look to somebody and be like, it's not a donation, right? I have to position it as a marketing investment.
Yes.
Because quite frankly, if I'm going, hey, I'd like to give $100,000 to a cancer charity or $100,000 towards paying athletes that I'm still trying to figure out why the school isn't paying them. Right. Exactly. That's a really hard pitch. And so our approach, and it works to a certain degree, is meeting with brands and going, hey, we get a lot of engagement because of this nonprofit. I think most nonprofits can do this, but it's things like doing television shows and doing sponsored segments so that the brand can get itself out there in the world all throughout the year. So it's not like wait, what is that? What do they do again?
Right.
What does that foundation do again? It's like, oh, I know this because once a month they're dropping something on social media. And essentially we're having those brands underwrite the small expense for whatever video production that is. And then the rest is going to the nonprofit. The big majority is going to the nonprofit. And we can look those marketing directors in the eye and say, this isn't, it could be tax deductible if we put it through the system, right?
Exactly.
But
you have to be careful with that. Yeah,
but also it's a smart marketing investment. Like what we've done, because we're buying marketing investments on our clients' behalf all the time. So we know the market pretty well. Yeah. And at least with that stuff, it's been like a cheaper, the metric we're looking at is cost per 1,000 impressions. And so it's like, that's a win for everybody. Yes. And I think there's a lot of value in just, you were saying before we turned the mics on, how many times do we need to hear about a nonprofit before we understand what they do?
Even before, anything. We put together Marcom plans for all of our clients, and we list everything out that they need to communicate on which platforms, what needs to go on social, what goes in email, what goes to current donors, what goes to your expanded audience. Current research says right now that if you see a marketing message 14 to 17 times, you are likely to react to it. That's a lot of times. You feel crazy. Like if you're a development director sitting in your office, you feel absolutely bonkers when you are sending the 14th email out about your event or about your nonprofit. And really and truly, some people are honestly hearing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter. And so and I think that you've really hit the nail on the head when it comes to getting that kind of content sponsored. That's huge, because if you can utilize someone else's dollars to purchase that and then you utilize that content all year long, that's where it is a marketing investment. And more nonprofits really need to be focused on the overall marketing strategy and, like you've talked about, brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's where you can take a page out of the book of what broadcast television stations and radio stations have been doing forever, which is, this year's Toys for Tots is sponsored by these dealerships and these kinds of things. And the dealerships do it because, yes, it makes them feel good, but it's also a smart marketing investment.
Totally.
People like doing business with people who support the community. It's just, you can look after study after study after study. And then if you can look these brands in the eye and say, okay, it's not television, but I guarantee, here's what you're going to get on organic social media. Life's pretty good.
Exactly.
And you can also give them that content to play in their dealerships or play in their lobbies or whatever that is on repeat. And there's just a win-win-win.
Well, I think from a donor standpoint, we look at segmentation within donor base.
Yeah.
And so if you've got content that you've built and you know that you've had a large following for an event for a long time, you're going to use that content differently to market to those people. So if you have assets to work with, it makes it so much easier. And especially with just the advent of so many different AI tools, there's an opportunity there to use like a broadcast media piece along with something else to continue that message to the right audience within your donor base.
It's building up that library of Lego pieces that you can then just repurpose into a MailChimp or into is it a GIF or a GIF or whatever?
Who knows? I think everyone says GIF now, but it used to be GIF.
Yeah, or just a quick social media hit where it's just it doesn't. You don't have to go hire a professional editor for that stuff. But if you have a library of this stuff, and I think that also goes into when you're talking about filming that Ask video. Or the B-roll that goes with it, just being intentional about what in here can I repurpose how, which is very difficult, as we know. A lot of times you're going with the fly, but
it's super hard to do. But I think that one of the things that you can do if you're smart and working with a great company like Hurley Media Group, I mean, you can say things like, "Hey, by the way, I would love to have, or I'd like to build into my contract that I want to add a show open video, or I want to build into my Ask video that I want to have like a 10-second snippet of our key message." Or 2 or 3 of those that I can rotate. I think those kinds of things are huge. That's a really good point. I'm going to just kind of dumb down what you said just a little bit to explain. So something Julianne always asks for is like a logo reveal. It's like a graphical logo reveal. We use them in all of our projects. But that's something that the nonprofits, and that's fine. As soon as we do work for somebody, that they own that work. So what they can do then is they can chop off that 5-second of video. And they can put it at the tail end of a social media clip, or they can put it before a social media clip, or if they're just doing a quick selfie video, they can put that in there to just bring up the quality of it. And it's almost, hey, we're doing this, but at the same time, let's be intentional about investing in tools that we can repurpose for other things. Exactly.
And it becomes part of our branding kit.
Exactly, yes.
And what I like too about that is a lot of times nonprofits, there's some really big national nonprofits that really have their brand honed in.
Yes, completely.
But it's very rare that you'll be working with a regional or a local nonprofit that they're like, this is our brand book and we stick to it, right? Yeah. So it affords that opportunity to like try new things and go like, ooh, we haven't thought about using the logo like that. Or, hey, that really looks cool there. And it's a great way to kind of grow the way that the group thinks about their brand as a whole, which is a lot of fun. A couple things that I want to circle back on real quick. Absolutely. You mentioned just the frequency of education. So it's kind of twofold in your world. One is just getting butts in seats at an event.
Completely.
And that's in the Seattle area. If you're not in the Seattle area, we are notorious for flaking.
Yes.
We're very good at it.
Week before an event, we're still like 80% capacity.
Exactly, yes.
But the caterer needs to know the number.
Exactly. So, there's the show up rates for Pacific Northwest events are insane. These are people who are descendants of human beings who moved to the middle of nowhere for a reason, right?
Exactly.
So there's that, but then there's also just the explaining of the mission of what they do, which no matter how simple the nonprofit is, it's usually a pretty complex conversation. And as we know, I'm sure you've sent 18 emails to somebody and they go, so what do you do again? And you're like,
yes, exactly.
Exactly. Right. So what's your thoughts on how to explain to somebody what your nonprofit actually does? Because that's the first step of why I should open up my checkbook in the first place.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing, and something that I counsel nonprofits on all the time, is you have an overarching brand and view of things that you do. What your donor needs to know is how are their dollars going to help you tomorrow? So they don't need to necessarily know every single grant you've received and what, how mission-based you are in a particular area. What they need to know is that tomorrow you're going to feed 150 kids. And they need to know how much that's going to cost, and then they're going to write you checks for that. They want you to be specific. Mm-hmm. And so that's super, super important to put in any type of donor communication. Of course, you need to have your brand as well and talk about the higher level stuff. But really for a fundraising event, you need to be clear and concise. And I just boil it down to numbers.
Yeah.
And think of it not necessarily as, you have to combine, right? Because the statistician that you have at your office or the data person that you work with is going to say, well, here are the exact numbers. And you're going to have to massage that just a little bit and say, okay, well, I think what you're telling me is tomorrow, if I had $100,000, we could provide books to different learners, right? Mm-hmm. So kids who are struggling with dyslexia or dysgraphia. That's what I could do with those dollars. And so it's really kind of finding those points to talk about and keeping it really, really clear and that there's a direct impact where those dollars are going. And Millennial and Gen Z donors really resonate with that. So that will become more important over time.
Gotcha. That makes, and that's what we tell everybody in all advertising and marketing capacity is just like, keep it simple.
Yes.
Because you're inside your organization,
right.
And you could, like, I can corner people at a dinner party and talk to them about what I do all night. And I love doing that. Yeah. That's probably why I'm not invited to a lot of parties. But like ultimately they'll still walk away and go, I think Brian works in something like advertising, but I'm not quite sure. And it's like, oh dude, I just missed the mark. Exactly. And it's just keep it simple, one spot, one thought. Right.
Oh, that's so smart. I'm going to start using that one.
Thank
Do you care
you.
if I borrow it?
Oh, I stole it from like somebody else who stole it from somebody else. Yeah.
Perfect.
There's no original ideas in advertising.
we just repurpose them, make them a little bit better. And then it sounds super influencing. So,
and then one other thing that you touched on, and there was a festival that reached out to you that wanted to do some sort of parade and things like that. And it's like, those I think are super appropriate for, I could debate with somebody about the efficacy of doing a live streamed auction nowadays. You might still get some bids and you might see a positive return on investment there. But when you're talking about like an event, like a music festival or a parade, to me, that's the stuff that does make sense to live stream. It makes sense to recapture and just put that sponsor logo on there.
Oh, totally. It's so easy to do. Like, it's just not, you get a few cameras in a few key places and get a little bit of editing. It doesn't even have to be super, super intense. But I do think that as more kind of collaborative groups come together, right? So people who are in particular communities, whether that's a physical neighborhood community or part of a group that they, feel really inclined to, it's really building that content. And then you can put that on a website or you can feature it in some way on social media. And I think that's huge. I think the parades would be big. Community festivals, if there's something interesting going on at a community festival, concerts in the park, whatever that happens to be, people will watch that content. There are people who just don't like to leave home. I mean, introverts unite in their own living rooms by themselves, right?
Yeah.
So, or
even if they're actually, so this is where the advice to a nonprofit, I think, is very different than a for-profit organization. I spend a lot of time with for-profit organizations saying, no, you need to invest in advertising to push this out there, because no matter how good your content is, people aren't going to just like your reels and share your reels about accounting. They just won't. No. And if they do, if they do, it's just, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a much harder lift. But the most successful nonprofits have a really fertile community around them of hardcore advocates for whatever that cause is. Exactly. So if you're just doing simple things like tagging the right people and just making the content to speak to what, because every nonprofit, I think people walk away from, they're like, oh, that's so cool, but I can't even explain it to my friend. Right. And if I could just transmit what I've got here, and they would have no problem raising money. So to be able to like have a video that they're so excited to share, or a piece of content that they're so excited to share, we've seen in the stuff that we've produced for profit and nonprofit, it is 100% of the time the nonprofit content that gets more virility. Yes. Because it just matters more.
It's mission oriented. Like that's what it is.
And that's where you get new people into those circles. So you're not just beating the same donors over and over.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what we keep working with fundraisers on, because I think from a fundraising perspective, it's really easy to go back out to the same people that you call every year for a large gift. Yeah. But we have to be searching for new donors, and they're coming. I mean, there's this huge transfer of wealth going on, across the country, from the boomers to Gen X and then to millennials. And this is an opportunity for so many nonprofits to, if they can clearly articulate their message, if they can get it out to the right audience, they will see returns in the next few years that will propel their mission forward.
Well, and that's what talking about ROI, if you're getting a new quality donor in the door, the lifetime value of that donor and the people they'll introduce you to as well is crazy. Beyond marketing and advertising, what are some of the ways you're advising people to make that circle bigger?
Well, what we're doing is we're letting them know that we think that they should do some different types of events that are going to build their affinity group. Right? Got it. So when we talk about who our new donors are, they could be people who love pickleball. Yeah. So host a pickleball tournament. They could be people who want to play trivia on Wednesday nights. So, or whatever night. I guess it doesn't really matter. I guess I play on Wednesday, so that was important to me.
I feel like that's the night that the bars are trying to get more people in.
I feel like it is. How do you really do that? So in terms of those kinds of experiences and kind of reaching out and then seeing what happens over time.
Yeah.
Seeing if they can get monthly recurring donations and then move those people forward to the next step in giving. So it's really kind of creating these more niche events. I would love to do a long table dinner. So if you're out there and you're like, hey, I would love to do a long table dinner with a fun chef, give me a call for that one because I
have a good chef for you, by the way.
Oh, fantastic.
A really good chef for you.
Okay,
yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I just need someone to say yes to the long table event.
Cool.
Okay.
And any nonprofit, any nonprofit that's doing like a smaller event or anything, they are welcome to use our studio for free.
Oh, that's awesome.
As long
Thank
as they
you.
they can hire a cleaner for like $100 and then we're good.
Perfect.
But
I love that.
just so you know, for like the smaller events,
Yes.
not for these big galas.
No.
It's
You don't
not
want
that
150
big.
people
Yeah.
out here, not
But
300
no,
people.
for like a
Yeah,
long table
exactly.
dinner or something like
love
that,
that.
like a little,
Okay, that's
just
great.
keep that on your radar.
Great for a major donor event.
That's what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
great. I love that. We could do a fun sample podcast experience for them,
That'd be fun too.
right?
Also, you know,
Look at us building this idea.
we got a lot of Coug legends around here. So
Yes, we
I know you
do.
work with a lot of Huskies.
I know.
But
I don't mean to. It just
we can
happened
get
that
we can
way.
get some of these Coug legends in here, and just what's fun too is just having people ask them about like what's going on with. I mean, there's so much going on in college football right now that they'll just be like,
So much.
go about it. So, all right, so that's kind of the name. I mean, I thank you for sharing that. It's get that circle bigger,
Yes.
change what you're doing, and just think about. I mean, look, the beautiful thing about COVID is we all got to get super creative with no consequences. We weren't going to get our hands slapped for like, why'd you change it so much?
Exactly.
But now we're getting back into a world where I think people are looking for a safer option, and safety is probably not going to be the thing that moves the needle.
Not. No.
Well, Julianne, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
And
I love your work.
I can't
You've
wait
known
for the
me
next
forever,
pandemic so we can work more together. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Media humans.
Media humans.
Media humans.
Media humans.